Stacey Young, the Customer Service Director at Western Baptist Hospital, and we're pleased to be able to present you with today's program focusing on great nutrition, prevention of childhood obesity, and some wonderful activities for your kids this summer. We've got with us right now Sherry Golightly, one of our registered dietitians at Western Baptist. Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Great. You know, Sherry, summer's in full swing now. Families have got a little bit of a different routine going on, and there are lots of us who've got kids who are old enough to stay home alone. And that's always tough for a parent to try to figure out what are some good eating choices, snack options, foods that we can have around the house this summer for our kids. Can you give us some ideas on that?
Well, to start with, I would suggest planning menus. I'm a big menu planning fan. And I would suggest that the menus be planned for meals and snacks. That way you can plan the menus and have the groceries in that you need. But some suggestions for healthy snacks and so forth would be, of course, fruits, any kind of whole grain, breads, crackers, popcorn. Hard cooked eggs are convenient to keep cooked ahead and keep in the refrigerator in the shell, and they can just take those out and you can use them on salads. You can make egg salad sandwiches. They can just be eaten fresh from the shell. Low-fat string cheese and the little mini Baby Bell, the low-fat Baby Bell cheeses are convenient, and children like those, and they can just be eaten as is, or they can be put in salads. The bags of lettuce are convenient. The different varieties of lettuces for salads can be convenient, and used for salads and so forth. But then there's pimento cheese spreads can be made or bought, can be made using the low-fat cheeses and low-fat Miracle Whip or mayo. And then there's, chicken salad, tuna salads, and things like that for sandwiches or on crackers, for snacks and so forth. Peanut butter is always a favorite. It's low in saturated fat and cholesterol. There's the fresh fruit, dried fruit, even canned fruit, is convenient for children to use. Cottage cheese, nuts, the low-fat yogurts and things like that, are always good choices to have on hand.
It's interesting to me because so often we think about quick foods, chips and cookies and crackers, but you've noted a lot of things that are really protein rich, like eggs and cheese and peanut butter. How important is that ensuring that protein is available for our kids in their diet and in their snacks?
Well, it's very important. It's one of the building blocks for growth and development, healthy blood growth and so forth. It's very, very important.
Good. Well, I think for many of us, we get overwhelmed by the amount of processed foods that are available. And we all know they're quick and they're convenient for folks who are on the run. But in addition to some of the things you talked about with the bagged lettuce, what are other fresh options that we may not be thinking about this summer? I'm thinking about farmers markets and those kinds of things. Tell us some fun things to have around that kids they might turn their nose up, but end up being really good to eat.
Well, right now, things like sugar snap peas are in season. Kohlrabi is available, and you can peel and eat that raw. But children will frequently eat raw vegetables, like even squash and zucchini. They'll eat raw when they don't particularly like it cooked. Those are some different things that children might like to eat.
Right. Good, good. And when we talk about young people in the kitchen preparing some of their own snacks and food, any suggestions, tips for parents to help really encourage their kids to get into the kitchen and prepare some of those snacks and maybe even breakfast or lunch, that menus that can be done easily and safely without much adult supervision?
Well, when children are involved in the menu planning and so forth, they're often more involved or more likely to be involved in preparing the meals. Families that eat meals together generally have more opportunities to work as a team to plan to plan and prepare meals together. But outside of that, some options for children who eat at home for convenient, quick, ideas. Foods can be prepared at supper and plan to have the next day for lunch, like extra grilled chicken. You know, you can put extra chicken on the grill, extra, you know, steak, extra hamburgers, things like that can be put on the grill, and they can be used like grilled chicken for salads, or, you know, just a sandwich the next day can be heated up or eaten cold. Things like salmon, you know, grilled salmon can be put on a salad or just be eaten or made into, you know, like tuna salad, but salmon salad, something like that the next day. Those are convenient and easy for kids, you know, to have. Or just preparing a plate, you know, from the foods from supper the next night that they can, you know, quickly and easily heat up in the microwave the next day. But there again, that's where the menu planning, you know, really comes in, so you can plan to prepare extra foods and so forth. And then, you know, you can plan to cook 2 meals and serve it, or plan, you know, cook 1 meal and serve it, you know, twice, you know.
Right.
That way for convenience, and the children can just heat it up and so forth.
When we talk about meal planning, menu planning, sitting down to eat together, sometimes we often kind of miss an important part of that nutrition, and that's serving size.
Oh, yes.
And do our eyes fool us sometimes? I know you've got some stuff to show us today to help us really get a good visual of what is the appropriate serving size. Can you share some of those with us when we talk about serving size?
Well, for one thing, most all packaged foods will have the serving size on those. So many people say, well, I don't know what a serving size is. Well, most all foods that are packaged will tell the serving size, you know, on the nutrition label. But some of the items that don't have a serving size would be your fresh fruits, fresh vegetables.
Sure.
This would be the portion size for an apple. This is, you know, a medium-sized apple. A muffin. This is, you know, the size muffin.
Wow,
it's a serving.
That's a little bit smaller than what we see.
This is a size serving. This is a 3-ounce portion of beef roast.
Okay.
Cooked weight, 3-ounce size portion. So the portion sizes are considerably smaller than, you know, what we're used to getting in restaurants and so forth. So.
Absolutely. So when we try to really apply those standards at our own table, and we look at, especially grains, I know, and proteins, is it okay to fill with salads and extra fruits and vegetables to sort of round out our meal? You know, how much salad can we have a day?
Well, generally all we can eat, you know, plenty. You know, just
good.
There's really not a limit on that, unless you have some condition, you know, where you need to be on a special diet.
Sure. Well, aside from the times when we do get to sit down at the table, summer, big travel time. So for families who are out on the go, they're on vacation, or maybe they're spending a lot of time at ballparks, at the pool. When you're on the run, you're not available at home to eat. Help us with some tips on what you can look for when you're eating out.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of places that families have to be, ballparks and so forth, in the summer, that they can even take meals with them. They can prepare picnic lunches and tailgate, you know, at the ballparks and so forth. Another strategy, if you have to spend a lot of time at ballparks, is talking to whoever's responsible for the concession stand and making suggestions for some healthier options. You can oftentimes suggest that they offer, you know, grilled chicken, and maybe some packages of raw veggies, apples and so forth. You can take foods with you, you know, for your children to snack on. Or you can just say no when they want to repeatedly go back to the concession stand. I think oftentimes parents don't realize that they can just say no, you know, when their children want unhealthy options, either at restaurants or, you know, at concession stands. But, you know, in a restaurant, you know, of course, the healthiest options would be the baked or grilled, you know, options. Watch the portion sizes. Children generally need to order off of the children's menu because the portion sizes are smaller, or either share an entree with, you know, another sibling or a mother, because the portion sizes in restaurants are generally man size. And when children order off of the regular menu, you know, the portions are generally just too large.
Certainly.
So.
Yeah, and we think about food, but the other thing that comes to mind, especially in the summer, is lots of lemonade and milkshakes and sugary drinks, which we know really pack on the calories. Talk to me a little bit about the need for kids to drink water, just good old-fashioned water.
Well, it's very important. You know, in the summer, you sweat a lot and lose a lot of fluids that way, so it is very important to drink water or get liquids in other forms, popsicles and things like that. But you do have to be careful that you're not getting too many calories. Of course, you know, milkshakes would not be a good choice. You don't get all that much water from those, and you've got a lot of calories in the form of fat and sugar. But you know, I'm not opposed to you know, the Crystal Light, you know, products, you know, being put in the water. Oftentimes, if children have to just drink water, they don't drink enough because they prefer something that's flavored. You know, Kool-Aid is not, you know, too bad. Water obviously is best, but like I said, children oftentimes won't drink enough if it's just water. I usually encourage parents to serve milk to their children at mealtime. Because milk is very important. I'm a big encourager of milk. But, you know, in between meals, you know, water or Kool-Aid or, you know, Crystal Light, something like that, you know, I don't have a big problem with.
Good, good. And I think so much of it probably is talk to your kids about it. Help your children understand why we're making these food choices.
Exactly.
Kids are they hear about it in school some, but then when you go home, they need to see that demonstrated at the table. Right.
The parents are the best authorities for example setting, and they need to practice what they preach.
Would you see the trend today with children and their eating habits? Are you alarmed?
Definitely. Definitely. I've been at this a long time, and it's alarming.
Yeah. So I think things like this, discussions and keeping that awareness out, so important for all of us, parents, grandparents, babysitters.
Definitely.
To help this generation of children.
It worries me that parents are not really aware of the seriousness of the choices that they and their children are making for their health, you know, the long-term consequences.
Absolutely.
It's very serious.
Well, and I tell you, if you could give a parting tip for us, what would it be? Thinking about summertime fun and travel and activities to help parents along the way.
Planning ahead, you know. Plan those menus.
Good, good. Well, Sherry, I'm so grateful for your time today and really helping us think better about the choices that we make for our children, getting them involved. What a wonderful suggestion, and planning ahead. We're going to talk in just a few moments to one of our physicians here in town, Dr. Patrick Withrow, and he's going to share with us more about options that we have available to us here in the community. We're going to talk about exercise, not just for kids, but all of us could get out and do some more in this great weather that we have here. And he's going to talk a little bit more about the epidemic of childhood obesity and some things that he and Western Baptist Hospital are doing to really fight childhood obesity. Thank you, Sherry. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Healthy Living. I'm Stacey Young from Western Baptist Hospital. We're talking about childhood obesity, good nutrition for the summer, and we're pleased to have with us today Dr. Patrick Withrow, Vice President for Medical Affairs at Western Baptist, cardiologist, and really such a strong advocate for childhood health issues. Dr. Withrow, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I read recently a report that was very alarming when the research indicated that children today are not expected to live as long as their parents.
That's absolutely correct, and I think that the people watching this program need to hear that one more time. Children of today are projected not to have as long a lifespan as their parents, and that's because of childhood obesity and all the diseases which are associated with it. This should really get the parents and society's attention.
Absolutely, and as a parent myself, it was startling to me. Give us some tips for parents. What can we do to change this course? Can we change it?
Oh, absolutely, but it's going to be a process where the parents have to be educated, and especially the kids have to be educated. The teachers, the schools have to be educated. Society in general has to be educated early on. If you think about when we were kids, when we grew up, what did we do? Well, we had family meals together.
Right.
We played outside. We didn't have all the electronic gadgets that the kids have today. We didn't have these supersized portions. You know, we didn't have a lot of processed food. You know, and if you look at pictures like in the 1950s, pretty interestingly, we looked at a picture of the opening of Baptist Hospital in 1953. And we saw all the people standing around at the grand opening, you know, the big brim hats and the women and all. Not a fat one in the bunch. Wow. 1953. Now just think, if we had a grand opening today of somebody's donut shop, what would it look like? Just imagine. Or if you go to some of, you know, Kmart, Walmart, some of these large stores and just walk up and down the aisles, what do you see? I mean, this is what is happening to our society. We better wake up.
Absolutely. And you know, we struggle, summertime, we're thinking about summer that's going on. We got kids, they're kind of laying around, even laying around at the pool. The lure of electronic games.
Oh, absolutely.
It just draws not just kids, but all of us in. The computer, our laptops, we're sitting a lot. But one thing I was curious to hear from you about is some of these video games, these consoles like the Wii or Xbox has a Kinect system that is marketed to get you up and moving.
Right.
How effective are those?
I think they have a niche. You know, if you go to some of these retirement homes and you see some of these elderly folks around who play with these machines like they bowl, I think that helps flexibility, helps get them active. I don't think I would recommend this to our children as a full-time exercise program. I think it just will not work. Okay. What I have learned from some of our elementary and middle school teachers is kids with cell phones, they had rather text someone than walk across the room to talk with them. And one teacher told me she had this student who had 10,000 texts per month. Now imagine that.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, just imagine how many steps, and just sit there and text. You know, and video games and computers and TV and screen time. There was a study done, I think it was in Australia, that compared screen time and vascular disease, and they actually looked at retinal arteries, not because the eye is viewing the screen, but that's the only place in the body where you can actually look at arteries. And you could see changes in kids who were inactive, just using video games and that sort of thing, just because the changes in the arteries occur with inactivity and their diet.
And when we talk about this problem of obesity, particularly in children, can you kind of frame up how big of a problem is it? I mean, what are the statistics telling us? It's,
no pun intended, huge. You know, 30% of kids these days in the United States are estimated to be overweight or obese. 30% of our children, 60% of our adults. And you can imagine the vicious cycle that we have. We have obese parents, overweight or obese parents, who have children who become obese or overweight, just as their parents did because of the same habits, the same lifestyle characteristics, and heredity. Heredity has a certain component here. Sure. These kids grow up to be obese or overweight parents who have obese or overweight kids, And that's the vicious cycle that we're in right now. It's a terrible problem, and it's going the wrong direction.
Well, and aside from just the idea of being overweight, there's a lot of other health effects that are related to that obesity. Can you tell us what some of our kids may be facing down the road?
Absolutely. The list is very long. We'll start with diabetes. You know, it used to be that diabetes in a child would be juvenile onset, or you know, it would happen because there was a deficiency of insulin, and then when they became adults, there was, because of increased weight, a resistance to the insulin in the body of the person, and we call that adult onset diabetes. Well, what we're seeing right now is adult onset diabetes is happening earlier and earlier. So the pediatricians tell us that they're seeing adult onset diabetes, insulin resistant diabetes, in 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. So with diabetes comes vascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, amputations, and therein is part of the reason why these children are not going to live as long as their parents. Hypertension, some cancers, polycystic ovaries, and girls who are overweight tend to start their periods early. And when that happens, you know, their height is arrested at a level which they won't attain the stature, the height that they would have otherwise, and they may become sterile because of anovulatory cycling.
Wow.
Degenerative joint disease, sleep apnea, obstructive airway because of the fat around the glottis, which prevents air to flow in and out during sleep. You know, the list is a mile long.
Right. And I know a lot of this is personal responsibility. We've got to all say we've made some bad choices,
Right.
Some of our decisions.
Right.
But I also want to talk about, I think, in today's marketing, you talked about supersize.
Right.
There are some pitfalls out there that some of us who may not be aware, or we've not taken the opportunity to educate ourselves, could slip into some of those dangers of what goes along with the supersize. Can you share your perspective on how we can really be savvy consumers?
Well, you know, supersized, you know, the more you get for the same amount of money, you know, what a deal, what a deal.
Right.
Wrong. It's a terrible deal. You know, we looked at the portion sizes, again, comparing like 1950s with what we get now, and a serving of French fries, which are okay, you know, in the right amounts, cooked in the proper oils and that sort of thing, not adding a lot of salt, you know, maybe that big around and that tall. Whereas supersize, I mean, goodness gracious, you get a huge amount, which is a meal in and of itself, enough calories for the entire day. So that's a trap, and fast food marketers are very aware of this. You know, you get more for your money. Unfortunately, if there's anything that we can do in the United States is produce a lot of food which tastes very good, which is full of fat and calories very inexpensively, and market it well, and we do it.
Yeah. So when we talked to Sherry earlier about really watching when you're out and about, not at home, and you have a little bit less control over what goes into the food.
Right.
What are some of your favorite options for healthy eating on the go?
Well, I think one of the important things that we need to keep in mind is read the labels, because if you order the wrong salad, you've just ordered a cheeseburger in a bowl.
Oh, okay.
It's really the truth. I mean, you can select a salad, which is, you know, you're better off having a cheeseburger. But you know, the things, the foods which are not processed, you know, fruits, vegetables, and some salads are really good at fast food places. And you can select appetizers in some restaurants, you know, seafood appetizers, you know, shrimp, lobster, that sort of thing. You know, if you just pick and choose, you can really get nutritious, very healthy food.
Good. So the awareness is really
It really
the
is.
key.
One other thing I'd like to mention is it's estimated that our children, especially in the summertime, you know, this is kindergarten all the way through high school, probably take in at least 1,000 calories a day in beverages, which include Sunny Delight, sweet tea, sodas. You know, it's something that we don't really think about because you're thirsty. It doesn't really quench your thirst, but it's just full of simple sugars. It's full of calories.
Right.
So that's a lot of calories.
Absolutely. So, you know, some of the information that you've shared with us today it's a little depressing when we think about what's coming. Can you give us some hope, give us some tips on how much activity do we need? What can we do as a family to get out, and how much should we be doing?
I recommend 30 to 60 minutes a day of vigorous activity. There are certain types of activities which render benefits in different areas. The cardiovascular fitness would be like walking on a treadmill, swimming, jogging, that sort of thing, increasing heart rate and blood pressure. Muscular strength, weightlifting or those sorts of activities. Muscular endurance, doing repetitive activity over and over again. And I think one thing that we leave out a lot is flexibility. The younger you are, you probably don't need it as much as the older you get. I can reference how far I can hit a golf ball right now because of decreased flexibility. And that you lose flexibility as time goes on. So I think yoga and stretching and those sorts of things. So there's 4 types of activities right there which are extremely important, and you need to do all of them every week.
Okay. And so even for children, we think about weightlifting. We're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of pounds, but what are some fun weight strength building activities that our kids could do?
We were talking about Project Fit America, exercise equipment, which Western Baptist has provided for 3 schools, soon to be 4 elementary schools. We have provided exercise equipment where, they can do this sort of stuff and do sit-ups and all kinds of different calisthenic activities which are good for muscular strength. So far we have provided exercise equipment for McNabb, Graves County, Lone Oak, and soon to be Concord. And we think this is an important program which, the families that live around the school could participate in.
Right.
I think one of the extremely important things is if families can do activities together and can eat meals together, it's also good for the mental health.
Right.
Mental health and physical health. So as Sherry said a while ago, be an example for your kids. If you can exercise with your kids, have fun with your kids, play games with your kids, they're more apt to do this as they grow older and actually share this experience with their own children.
Wow, that's great. Great advice, Dr. Withrow. I think you've given us a lot of food for thought, no pun intended there. We all need to take a closer look at our daily habits. And Western Baptist Hospital has some great resources for the community on our website. Of course, Dr. Withrow and Sherry Golightly have given us some really good information thinking about what can we do for our children and what can we do for ourselves to ensure that this projection that our kids are not going to live as long as we will, we need to stop that. And we have the ability to do it with education, tools, and some really outstanding medical professionals. So I want to thank you for joining us today, spending time with us as we work to make your life a little healthier. I'm Stacey Young with Healthy Living. Thank you.